can like it or you can hate it, but the Japanese have played a significant role in the development of electronics and also in our hobby as electronicians. And today I stumbled across some old footage which I recorded many years ago for one of my clients. It's an interview with a leading Japanologist who at the time was talking about how the Japanese technology market works. First things first, I have to apologize for the bad sound quality. This footage is really, really old. Dear Miss Cruz, please tell us more about yourself and what you do for a living.
Okay, well, I'm from Puerto Rico, and I am a product infrastructure designer and Japanologist. I mostly work with helping to get products and apps off the ground, and I specialize in the Japanese market.
Let us start out our discussion by looking at this bad boy in the background here. It's a scope from the Japanese manufacturer Iwatsu. In the 80s, they made some amazing scopes, but since they have basically fallen down to be a partner of LaCroix. And why and what is causing this? Well, let's see what our Japanologist has to say about it. Well, with the Japanese being so innovative sometimes, I have to relay a little question. We recently set out to purchase an oscilloscope, and so the thing was this. We had the choice between getting a device from Iwatsu and a device from another vendor which we will not name. And the Iwatsu device, while solidly built, cost 10 times what the other vendor's device did, and the other vendor's device offered better analysis features. Why was this so innovative Japanese company eventually driven into the role of the follower?
I think that has a lot to do with some cultural factors, because even though Japanese companies tend to be very innovative in their respective fields, especially in technology, sometimes it's really hard to change, and Japanese companies often find it's hard to change, or they're slow to change, or they're reluctant to change, because oftentimes the mindset is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's working well, then people are more likely to go with something where they know they can expect success rather than taking some risk. And a lot of times, even though it may seem counterintuitive, the Japanese market really actually is very risk averse.
Okay, so another question. Whenever you go to some trade show and you have Japanese managers or speakers, you can identify them not by their looks, but by their slides, which are so packed. Why are they so packed?
Part of that is a cultural thing, and it's also partly a linguistic thing. Japanese is a ideographic language, so it lends itself to having a lot of text or a lot of information packed into a small amount of text. So therefore, you can put a lot more information by having a lot of text. Japanese culture isn't really that text averse. Like, say, Western culture tends to be a lot of TLDR, too long, didn't read, or they don't like it when they see too much text, because a lot of the meaning is already kind of inferred into the words. But with Japanese, you can be very specific with a lot of text. And this is one reason why, for example, Twitter is the perfect medium for Japanese microblogging. You can fit a lot of information in 150 characters. So people just tend to like to see a lot of information. They want to be informed, so that's what they expect out of the presentation. I think a lot of it is that in the West, we tend to look at Japan as something exotic still. We tend to see Japan as this sort of place that everything is anime, everything is the future, and really we tend to focus on only the strange or weird things, the really unusual, crazy things like people eating live frogs or buying used underwear out of a vending machine, instead of actually the reality is that Japan isn't always that crazy, but nobody wants to hear about that. Everybody wants to hear about the exotic stuff. And in fact, in a lot of ways, Japan has sort of stagnated because of its reluctance to change or to try to move away from a lot of its traditional notions. So I think we have this idea that Japan is the future, and really Japan is a bit more complex. And it's a bit of a paradox, because you either have things that are amazingly traditional and have endured for thousands of years, which is quite beautiful, but at the same time you get a lot of stubbornness that comes along with that. And I think in some ways that's how Japan acts.
Long-term followers of me might know that I used to be in the mobile phone market before I got back to electronics. And of course, the Japanese mobile market is fascinating as ever. So here is our Japanologist Geacone-Cruz and some of her opinions on the mobile market. Why was Nokia so unsuccessful in Japan while Apple took the market by storm?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with marketing, and it also has to do with the business model system for mobiles in Japan. First of all, Nokia didn't really have very much aggressive marketing attached to their handsets or to their business itself in Japan. And that was something that was really a disadvantage for them because a lot of the domestic companies and domestic providers were really able to take advantage of that. And I guess in the larger picture, that has a lot to do with the business model between handsets and providers, because in Japan in the past, handsets were tied to particular providers. So there was a lot of customer loyalty. It wasn't normal for people to change their mobile provider because they would lose their phone number even if they wanted a newer, better handset. So in that case, when mobile first moved over into the smartphone area, especially when iPhone first came out, they were attached with SoftBank. And that was a big thing because they were the only provider that was having iPhone as a handset option. So lots of people who weren't already with SoftBank were very reluctant, even though they wanted to use this new technology, they were really reluctant to switch over from their current provider and move over to SoftBank.
Why do cell phone operators also act as manufacturers so often?
Okay, so a lot of it has to go back to the business model that was first instated when mobile web first came around in the late 90s. And this has a lot to do with the fact that there were Galapagos phones, which are actually feature phones that have special features that are only important to the Japanese market. And in this case, they weren't really any kind of features that would be very important to, say, the European market or the North American market. So it became a natural sort of relationship that the actual manufacturers would also be the cell phone providers.
That leads to yet another question. Why was iMode successful while VAP failed?
Well, iMode was the first business model of its own kind. I mean, really, before that, people were making direct connections to the internet, whereas with iPhone, with iMode, it was actually directly integrated into the handset itself. So what happens is there was literally an iMode button. So it was a very holistic approach to marketing, to billing, to actual hardware technology. And so with that kind of wide range and scope, there was no chance for it to fail, really, because it was the first of its kind.
It would, of course, be unfair to limit Japan and the discussion of Japan only to some basic technological topics. You want to make some money in Japan, and or you might be interested to find out more about Japanese culture. And who would you ask if not a Japanologist?
I think that Japanese culture really likes the vending machine because it's something enduring. It's a piece of machinery, so I think that sort of iconography grows out of the post-war idea that Japan was pretty much raised after the war and had to rebuild itself from nothing. So any kind of mechanical or technological convenience that people could have was considered a real luxury, and it was considered a real step forward in terms of improving people's quality of life. So that itself, I think that sort of represents this idea that better living through science. Then there's the idea that it's always out there, it's always running, it doesn't have to be manned by a person. So in the 24-hour culture of Japan, if you're walking down the street coming home from your office at 3 a.m. and you need a drink, you can get one from the vending machine. In that same way, this enduringness, I often find people talking about how the vending machines in their neighborhoods that they see every day as they walk by, they almost feel like they're friends, or that there's something familiar, like walking past the familiar. They're a part of the neighborhood. People feel a connection with them because they're always there. This enduring quality is very valuable in Japanese culture. And I also think it's a big convenience factor because they're open all the time, they're there all the time, they're running. And I have to say this is really, really important because, for example, during an earthquake, when a lot of things weren't working or whatever, I've known people who've been stuck somewhere during an earthquake, and the vending machines are rigged so that once a certain seismic threshold is held, the electricity turns off and you're actually able to manually grab drinks out of them, for example. So this is really useful. During the 2011 earthquake, people were actually able to grab water or tea or something to drink to sustain themselves even after the earthquake because this trigger. So there's a lot of conveniences that are also in there that are sort of thought of for the greater good. But it's also this idea that you can operate it yourself. You don't have to interact with other people. There's a very sort of individualistic interaction happening there. So I think it holds a special place because it really speaks to the Japanese psyche on a lot of things.
Schnitt. Why has Japan lost the role of the Japanese test market? I mean, initially, new technology was tested there, while now it's tested in Puerto Rico and similar countries.
I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that maybe Japan's priorities have shifted a little bit. Japan's been in a recession for a really long time. So I think that that's made it turn itself inward a little bit. It's a bit of a paradox because Japan's also having this big push to become more of an international player, to have more international presence. But at the same time, a lot of the economic factors are having them look more inwards towards themselves. There's a lot more to do with trying to push new things onto the Japanese market domestically. And we see that in that time where there's been a bit more of an inward look, that places like Korea or a lot of the African countries have become a really good source for test marketing. Again, Puerto Rico is a really good one for the North American market because they're a little bit different than North America, but they have a lot of cultural links. So I think that in that sense, it's not so much that Japan has lost status, but that more players have come up that have become also just as good as test markets or offer a different variety of test markets.
Why do we see so many technologies in Japan which aren't used much in the West? Waterproofness, flip phones, all this kind of stuff.
I think that's got a lot to do with the fact of the Galapagos effect, which is much like the Galapagos Island animals develop special features in order for them to survive in their ecosystem. This is the same for Japanese technology. People still like to have these small little features rather than having a faceless product. And I think this is something that's really affecting the mobile market at the moment. I like to call it the muting of the market or the muting of the diversity of the mobile market. Smartphones are more or less the same within a range, but Galapagos feature phones, or garakes they're called in Japan, have this amazing richness of features like being waterproof or having television receivers. And these are ones that are really, really interesting, and they're not as faceless. They have a very special cult following in Japan even now.
Well, but then why don't these impressive devices make it to Europe?
I think that's got a lot to do with just simple manufacturing regulations. For example, for mobile phones, it's not cost effective for companies to actually manufacture phones that fit, say, North American or European standards. There's a lot of hardware specifications that are totally different. Even for iPhones, for example, if you have an iPhone that you bought in Japan, it's really, really difficult to have it. It's virtually impossible to have it unlocked for Europe. I have an iPhone 3 from way back when that still is basically a glorified iPod because it can't be unlocked. And that's got a lot to do with the way that they handle IMEI numbers and individual identification numbers in Japan.
What do you think is the thing that would move Japanese web development and Japanese society as a whole to the next level?
I think it's got a lot to do, especially when it comes to the technology industry, treating developers as creative problem solvers. Right now in the Japanese industry, developers are sort of stuck on as an afterthought when it comes to, say, design teams. So you see a design team of people, one guy's doing video, one guy's doing design, one guy's doing, illustration or something, and then you've got the developer, and he or she is sort of treated more like a catch-all IT person rather than somebody who has a very creative, very problem-solving oriented profession. And I think that needs to be addressed more. Developers need to be treated as creative workers. Japan's not over, but I also think we need to look at Japan with a critical eye to get the whole story. So it's not just all crazy anime and crazy fashion, but there's also a lot of interesting problems that also need to be solved there too. So I think also the West needs to look at how to solve problems in Japan just as much as Japan needs to try to solve problems in the West.
And with that, I wanted to thank you for listening. Don't worry, the next clip will be on some more of this gear in the back of me.